You placed your dad in that nursing home to keep him safe. So why is he suddenly covered in bruises and losing weight? This is a nightmare nobody wants to face. Every visit, staff wave off your questions, leaving you unsure whether this is normal aging or is this silent neglect. But if you ignore those warning signs, you risk deadly infections, soaring medical bills, and zero accountability for those responsible to the one you love. I'm attorney Brett Harrison, a New York attorney for over 30 years. And when I sit down with families who suspect their loved one is experiencing neglect in a nursing home, the first thing I explain is what neglect actually looks like. Neglect isn't just one isolated incident. It's a pattern of failing to provide the basic care that residents need and deserve. In New York, nursing home neglect typically manifests in several ways. You might notice bedsores developing on your loved one, which are completely preventable with proper care. These pressure ulcers occur when staff fail to turn residents regularly or provide adequate hygiene. I've seen cases where residents develop severe stage 4 bedsores that go down to the bone. This causes excruciating pain and requiring extensive medical intervention. Malnutrition and dehydration are equally serious forms of neglect. When nursing homes don't have adequate staffing or proper protocols, residents may not receive enough food or water, or they may not get the assistance they need to eat and drink properly. Weight loss, weakness, and confusion can all be signs that your loved one isn't getting the proper nutrition. Serious infections are another red flag. When personal hygiene is neglected, when catheters aren't properly maintained, or when wounds aren't treated appropriately, infections can develop rapidly. I've handled these cases where urinary tract infections went untreated and developed into life-threatening sepsis. The thing is, under New York law, nursing homes have a legal duty to provide adequate care. Federal regulations require facilities to have sufficient nursing staff to maintain each resident's highest practicable physical, mental, and psychosocial well-being. When they fail to meet this standard, they're not just providing poor service, they're violating the law. Your loved one is the one that suffers as well as you and your family as well. Your rights under New York law. New York has some of the strongest nursing home protection laws in the country. The cornerstone of these protections is New York Public Health Law, Sections 2801, Section D, which gives nursing home residents and their families powerful legal rights that many people don't know about. This law specifically states that any residential healthcare facility that deprives a patient of any right or benefit shall be liable to the patient for injuries suffered as a result. What does this mean in practical terms? It means that when a nursing home fails to provide proper care for your loved one, they can be held financially responsible for the harm that results. Under this law, you're not limited to just recovering medical expenses. You can pursue both compensatory damages, which cover things like medical bills, pain and suffering, and additional care costs, and potentially punitive damages, which are designed to punish the facility and deter future neglect. New York residents also have rights under the state's Nursing Home Bill of Rights. Every resident has the right to live in a comfortable environment free from neglect, abuse, and mistreatment. They have the right to receive adequate and appropriate care, the right to be treated with dignity and respect, and the right to be fully informed about their care and treatment. These aren't just nice-sounding words on paper. These are enforceable legal rights, and when they're violated, they are real consequences for the facilities responsible. Now let's discuss recognizing the warning signs. Knowing what to look for can make all the difference in protecting your loved one. Physical signs are often the most obvious. Look for unexplained bruises, cuts, or injuries. Check for bedsores, especially on the heels, tailbone, hips, and other pressure points. Notice if your loved one has lost weight or feels malnourished or dehydrated. But neglect isn't always physical. Emotional and psychological neglect can be just as damaging. If your loved one has become withdrawn, anxious, or fearful, these could be signs of mistreatment. Watch for changes in behavior like avoiding eye contact, increased anxiety, or what we call shrinking, making themselves small to avoid attention from potential abusers. Financial neglect is another serious concern that's become more and more common. Staff members may take advantage of their access to residents' finances by forging signatures, stealing cash or personal property, or cashing checks without permission. With so many financial transactions happening electronically now, this type of abuse can be harder to detect, which is why regular monitoring of bank accounts and financial statements is really crucial. Environmental neglect is also something to watch for. Are your loved ones' living quarters clean and safe? Are call buttons within reach? Is the facility maintaining proper temperature and lighting? These things might sound small, but they're part of a basic standard of care that facilities are required to provide. Now let's talk knowing when to take immediate action when you suspect neglect. The moment you suspect neglect, you need to act quickly and methodically. Time is critical both for your loved one's safety and preserving evidence that might be crucial to any legal case. Your first step should be documenting everything. Take photographs of any visible injuries, poor conditions, or evidence of neglect. If your loved one is able to communicate, get their account of what happened. But do this gently and without leading questions. Write down exactly what they tell you, including the date and time of your conversation. Collect any relevant medical records, incident reports, or care plans. If there are any witnesses, other residents, family members, or even staff who are willing to speak up, get their statements in writing if possible. Financial statements and bank records are crucial if you suspect financial abuse. Once you have this documentation, you need to report the neglect through proper channels. In New York, you can file complaints with the Department of Health using their online nursing home complaint form. There's also a dedicated hotline that's 1-888-201-4563, specifically for nursing home complaints. The centralized complaint intake unit will investigate complaints, including interviewing patients, family members, and nursing home staff. But understand that these investigations take time, and they're focused on regulatory compliance, not necessarily on getting compensation for the harm done to your loved one. Now let's discuss building your legal case. While reporting to state agency is important for public safety and regulatory enforcement, it's not sufficient if you want to hold the facility financially accountable and get compensation for the harm done to your loved one. That requires building a legal case under New York civil laws. Under New York law, you have 3 years from the date of injury to file a nursing home abuse or neglect claim. This may sound like a long time, but it's really not when you consider everything that needs to be done to build a strong case. Medical evidence is crucial. You'll need documentation showing the extent of injuries or harm, medical records that demonstrate the progression of neglect-related conditions, and expert medical testimony about what the proper standard of care should have looked like. This is where having an experienced attorney becomes invaluable, because we know how to work with medical experts and we can review records and provide testimony needed to prove your case. Facility records are equally important. These might include staffing schedules, care plans, incident reports, and internal communications. Nursing homes are required to maintain detailed records, and getting access to these through the legal discovery process often reveals patterns of understaffing, inadequate training, or systematic problems that contributed to the neglect. The key is showing not just that harm occurred, but that it occurred because the facility failed to meet the standard of care required by law. In many cases, we find that neglect isn't the result of one person's mistake, but rather systemic problems like chronic understaffing, inadequate training, or corporate policies that prioritize profits over patient care. So, what damages can you recover? When nursing home neglect cases are successful, families can recover several types of damages. Medical expenses are the most obvious. This includes not just treatment for injuries caused by neglect, but also ongoing care that might be needed as a result. Pain and suffering damages compensate for the physical and emotional trauma experienced by your loved one. These can be substantial in cases involving serious bed sores, malnutrition, or infections that cause prolonged suffering. In cases where neglect results in death, New York allows recovery of certain damages through wrongful death claims. While New York's wrongful death law is more limited than some states, families can still recover funeral expenses and the pecuniary value of what the deceased would have contributed to the family. Punitive damages are available in cases where the facility's conduct was particularly egregious. These are designed not just to compensate the victim, but to punish the wrongdoer and deter similar conduct in the future. Working with the right legal team. Nursing home neglect cases are complex, involving both state and federal regulations, medical issues, and often corporate defendants with teams of lawyers defending them. This isn't the type of case where you want to go at it alone or work with an attorney who doesn't have specific experience in this area. Look for attorneys who focus specifically on nursing home cases and have a track record of success. These cases often require significant resources from medical experts, document review, and investigation. Many attorneys work on contingency fees for these cases, meaning you don't pay attorney's fees unless there's a recovery. The right legal team will also help coordinate with state investigations, ensure that evidence is preserved, and work to get your loved one moved to appropriate care if necessary. We understand that this isn't just about money. It's about justice. It's also about dignity and respect for your loved ones, accountability, and preventing the same things from happening to other families. When we take action against nursing home neglect, we're not just seeking justice for one resident. We're helping to protect all vulnerable people in these facilities. Successful legal action often leads to necessary changes in policies and procedures that benefit everyone. Many of the cases I've handled have resulted in not just financial compensation, but in consent agreements requiring facilities to improve staffing, upgrade training programs, or implement better monitoring systems. These systematic changes can prevent future neglect and save lives. That's why it's so important to speak up when you see neglect. If you see something, say something. Your loved one might not be the only one suffering, and your willingness to take action might be what protects other residents and their families. Now, while we've covered how to protect your loved ones from nursing home neglect, there's another critical aspect of New York's legal system that affects every case we've discussed today. You might be wondering, Brett, what are the chances of my case will actually go to trial? The reality is that most New York legal cases, including nursing home neglect, medical malpractice, and personal injury claims, settle before ever reaching a courtroom. But why does this happen? And what does it actually mean for your case? In my next video, why most New York cases settle before trial, I'll reveal the strategic reasons behind these settlements, show you how insurance companies calculate their offers, and explain exactly what this means for your compensation that you can expect. Understanding this process is crucial when you're dealing with nursing home neglect or any other legal matter in New York. So make sure you don't miss it. See you over there.